Ladies, are you suffering from long menstrual cycles, heavy bleeding, bloating, and pelvic pain? You may have uterine fibroids. South Florida Vascular Associates offers a non-surgical, minimally invasive procedure, uterine fibroid embolization. Unlike hysterectomy, it is performed at our outpatient facility and is covered by most insurances. No hospital stay, no general anesthesia, and shorter recovery time. Call for your consultation today at 954-725-4141 or visit us at sfva.com.
Blog Talk Radio.
The year, 1888. The place, London's East End. Dead and mutilated bodies are popping up all over, from Stamford to Whitechapel. Jack the Ripper is leaving his mark, and the city's on edge. Yvonne Mason is back with a tale of murder and millinery. The Rhodes Hat Factory is booming while the body count rises. Why now? How are these hats connected? Has the Hatter gone mad? Mad Hatter, from Yvonne Mason. Available now on Amazon.com.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, if it's Thursday night, it's Off the Chain, and I am your host, Yvonne Mason. And yes, that was another shameless piece of self-promotion, because part of this radio station is to promote my work since I can't get out there anymore. Tonight's guest is an up-and-coming author. I've been reading some of his stuff, and this young man is going to be a very interesting guest tonight. His name is he is an author. His name is Kyle Perkins, and he just recently discovered his love for putting his imaginative daydreams in writing for others so they could enjoy it. He founded and managed some of the largest text-based role-playing groups on Facebook, and then that in turn sparked his passion for storytelling and helped him to sharpen his skills as an author. Since the January 2016 release of his debut dystopian novel, Reddened Wasteland, Kyle has published 3 other works with plans to release several more in the upcoming months, including his second installment of the Reddened Wasteland series. He's a dog person, an Aquarius, and he lives in Florida, though he'll tell you he lives on the Internet. Now, I want to know how he lives on the Internet. Good evening, Kyle. Glad to have you with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, you're quite welcome. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy, busy life, because you are a busy young man, to spend an hour with us tonight and let the folks get to know who you are and how you got here. This is interesting. So let's just jump right in. How did you get involved? I know that in your bio it says that you founded the text-based role-playing group. Was that something you'd always wanted to do, or was that something that came later in life? How did you get here?
Well, actually, it's kind of funny. I stopped working in another job. I've been in sales my whole life, and it was just kind of a lull, and just staying at home, just kind of being bored, and I've always been a gamer and played a lot of video games, and it just happened that I was in between games waiting for the next game in that series to arrive, and we had no release date. We didn't know when, the next game would come out from that company, that sort of thing. And so I made a group where we could basically, role play as these characters in these games and kind of just have fun keeping that game going, in our hearts, I guess. And so we started space role playing, and some people thought that, I was a good writer and I should probably pursue that. So I kind of just took them up on it, and called their bluff and did it. And since then, I've gotten quite a few fans, which is pretty awesome. And, even if I wanted to quit after the first book, they're going to let me. So I guess this is my career now.
Did you always want to write?
No, I never even thought about it, to be honest. And, I had never written before, but once I got into the groups, I basically when I was doing sales, I was always in management and that sort of thing. So I had a knack for kind of herding cats, So when we got into these groups, it was basically just about making a bunch of rules and stuff like that for people to live by and to follow the lore, to keep everything in check so our stories don't, overlap somebody else's story and mess up the whole group's story, basically. So we kind of acted as like some kind of policing agency for that sort of thing. So, but that's where I started writing, and it was just a lot of fun. It ended up eating up a lot of my time, and I realized I was already writing several novels worth of work, just every couple of months, and I thought, everybody's telling me I should probably write, so why not get paid for it if everybody's enjoying the stories and, a lot more people want to see more of that, then, why not?
Well, when you wrote your first novel, was it taken from the role-playing games that you and your crew created?
No, that was taken from a long life PhD, to be honest. Basically, I grew up with a lot of, being ahead of my class, I guess you'd say. And so a lot of times I just found myself bored, and I would come up with these stories in my head to occupy my time like anything just to get through the day at school, because for me it was pretty much torture, like a prison sentence. And, as I grew older, that was just kind of like my coping mechanism, I would say. I just create elaborate stories just in the shower or, just grabbing groceries. I'm always thinking of something, and that was just a story that I thought of, and I've always liked dystopian themes and fantasy themes. So basically I'm kind of like a speculative fiction writer. I don't really box myself into a genre. I want to write a lot of different things.
And that leads me to my next question. A lot of people don't understand. They probably have read dystopian, but they don't understand that genre. Why don't you explain that genre to our listening audience? Because in the, as being the person that I am and the bounty hunter person that I have been, and inquiring minds want to know, I found that some of the books that are considered dystopian, I'm sure a lot of people have read. So if you will explain what that genre is, then I will read some of these titles and might shock some folks.
Okay, well, all my books aren't dystopian. There's just a few that are dystopian, but they all fall under the banner of speculative fiction, which is basically just any fiction that you use your imagination, I guess you'd say. It's not just a fiction based in our world. It can be based in our world, but it would have some elements of fantasy, sci-fi, dystopian, that sort of thing. But dystopian, the best way to describe it would be, if you know what a utopia is, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
Like a perfect world.
Right.
A utopian society would be a society with no litter, not using fossil fuels, that sort of thing. But a dystopian world is always going to have elements of some kind of, darkness in it. So like zombies, like zombie flicks, that would fall under dystopian. So The Walking Dead is technically dystopian, but so is 1984, so is V for Vendetta, so is the Hunger Games, and things like that. Anything where the world is just a little worse than ours is, people that are worse off, or they're oppressed. For some people in our own history lived in a dystopian world. People way back in time, slaves, that sort of thing. They would be. Whereas other people.
Lord of the Flies was one that came to mind, as well as Orwell's Animal Farm.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, and I read both of those books 100 years ago, and Brave New World, Adolf Huxley's Brave New World, Orwell's 1984. Those were dystopian novels that were scary as hell.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what dystopian is. It's just a
Do you do a well? Before I do the other question, what is your indie book channel?
The indie book channel, it's something that me and Virginia Johnson do. Basically, I do all the video editing and, uploading to YouTube and handle all the technical aspects of it. And what she does is she interviews a lot of indie authors. She reviews indie books. She's going to be doing tours, do indie conventions, and we're going to upload those. Basically just everything indie, just trying to keep people in the know within our small community.
And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, we are a small community in the big world of authors. Indie authors really are a small, tight-knit community, and we do our best to help each other because it's important for us to succeed that way. None of us are an island. And that being said, you did an article on things that readers should stop doing right now. Do you remember that blog you did?
Yeah, I don't remember word for word or anything, but yeah, I remember.
Well, something that really got my attention was you're writing about criticizing authors, because authors in general, and I've read a lot of reviews for a lot of different books. I read a lot of books. And not every book is for every reader, but that doesn't mean that it's not a good work. It just means It doesn't appeal to that reader. And you state that in it's called 11 Things All Readers Should Stop Doing Right Now by Kyle Perkins. And one of the things is stop criticizing authors. If you don't, and the gist that I got from this particular thing that you did was just because that book is not your bag doesn't mean it's not a good book.
Yeah, basically, I mean, if I wouldn't necessarily say that I like vampire romances, but if it's a good book, it's written well, the story's put together, and it has great characters, and I'm thinking about it for days, I'm not going to give it 1 star because it's not the kind of book I would normally grab off of the shelf, and I've seen that so many times. It's not really happened to me. I haven't gotten a ton of bad reviews or anything like that. This was more speaking on behalf of other people, because I've been through reviews and I've seen other people's work, and I've seen them say, "Oh, I love the book. It was great. It was fantastic, amazing story, but it's not my typical read." And then they give it like 2 stars, and I think that's pretty messed up.
Well, I agree, because if they said all of that, saying how good it was and how flowing it was and yada, 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 and they say it's not my typical read and I give it 2 stars, that negates the entire review.
Yeah, it's kind of like telling a guy he's really handsome, has a great job, but he's too short for you, so you're going to pass. It's just kind of, it's rude, basically.
Well, it's kind of like, what's the point?
Yeah, it's like, why do you even have to say anything?
I like the analogy you used where you say giving a 5-star book a 3-star rating because it's not your typical read is not cool. This behavior is nothing short of insanity. I don't go to an Italian restaurant and rate it based on how Chinese food was. The food was delicious, service great, but I usually eat at Chinese restaurants, so 2 stars. And that's exactly what it's like.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's been books that I've read as a courtesy to fellow authors because they've asked me to read them. And while I might say this is not a genre that I am particularly interested in. And I will start off with that caveat. I will say, however, it was an absolutely amazing book, well written, plot flowed. It grabbed my attention, but it would get a 5-star review. Even though it's not what I normally read, doesn't mean it's a bad book.
Yeah, and I would consider that a professional review. A review that I would actually take into consideration, because when you go on eBay or you go on Amazon and you purchase anything else, you look for these reviews that are well crafted. You don't go to just the 1-star review and then look at somebody that's just complaining, and you don't typically just go to a 5-star review that just says brilliant. You want something well constructed. So if somebody says something that directly contradicts themselves, you skip right on to the next thing. So it's almost just like a waste of space, and it seems kind of mean-spirited when you're reading it. It just salty, telling somebody it's not your typical read, so I'm going to knock down your rating. That affects the outcome of your sales just because it's not my particular read is pretty, just mean-spirited.
But if you put that as a caveat in the beginning and say, however, I found this book enlightening, enjoyable, spellbinding, it kept me reading, which to me tells me that author was able to touch something in my soul or in my psychic that normally would not. For instance, I don't read romance. That is just not my genre. I don't believe in happily ever after. But if an author came to me and said, Yvonne, please read this and give me your honest opinion, I would start with a caveat. I don't normally read romance. However, and it's not a bully pulpit against the book. It's letting that audience know this book grabbed me, even though it's not what I normally read.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, if you don't like my book because you don't like my book, you don't like the characters, you don't like the story, it didn't flow well for you, sure, say those things and, tell me where I went wrong, because that kind of criticism helps me grow as an author. But to knock me down because it's not a genre you like, then that's not helpful. That's not a helpful criticism.
And it's also a tacky review, because you also say, using your network to bully authors. I love this one. And what you basically say is, some of you have a small network of readers, to which is awesome for authors, and you pull in the community and help authors tremendously, and we love you for it. However, a few of you abuse this and get a big head. I have seen these small networks bully authors out of gift cards, prizes, and so on, with the threat of pulling their friends from events at the last second. Even worse, some authors cave to the bullying and give these people what they want, reinforcing their behavior. Ladies and gentlemen, never use a bully pulpit with us. It has never worked for me. It will never work for me. But for an up-and-coming author that they have poured their heart and soul into a book, and someone does this to them, Kyle, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it happen so many times now that it's just become the norm. When you go into these events, authors will put in prizes because they want to get a bigger audience, people that they don't know yet. And the way they do that is by offering something to people outside of just their presence, which would be like a gift card or signed book, something like that, something just to entice new people to come. Because if those people give you a chance, they might like your work and you might gain a few fans. So that's why people do that. But meanwhile, there are people, groups of readers that just go around and they try to win every competition, and they don't particularly like the author. They just like the idea of getting free money. So they push in all of their friends and these little cliques that they gather, and basically what they do is they tell the author, well, the author usually they've started in the indie community. They started saying things like, if we find out that you're cheating on this, we're going to eliminate you from the contest. If we find out you're pulling out outside people using alternate accounts, that sort of thing, duplicate accounts to win a contest, we're going to exclude you from this. And once they are excluded, what they do a lot of times is bully the author and say that they're going to pull everybody from the events, or they're going to write a bad blog post about you, give you bad reviews on your books. And I've seen a lot of shameless tactics to get a $5 gift card, which to me, in a world of mostly middle-aged people, it's kind of baffling.
It's childish.
Yeah.
I don't
see myself ever needing $5, that badly to where burn my bridges in a very small community. But some people are willing to go to those lengths, and it's sad.
Well, fortunately, I've never had that happen, but I did have a stalker, and for whatever reason, this particular female thought it was grand fun to go and put 1-star reviews on all 17 of my books, and it was the same review for all 7, and I knew she hadn't read all of them. And then she went on her blog and started saying things that were interesting. Well, I'm not a shrinking violet, so I found out her real name because she was doing all of this under the name Anonymous. Now, who in the hell calls their kid Anonymous? If you do, then there's something seriously wrong. So I went and I found out who she was, and I called her out. And then I became the stalker, which I thought was hysterically funny. But for people to do that is they have no character. That's the same people that say, I don't read this, but it was a great book, but I'm giving you 2 stars. That's the same type of mentality.
Well, to be honest, in this community, which I've only been in a short time, but it almost seems like things have been going downhill, in a lot of these groups lately. And nowadays characters in short supply because people are just in this for to make quick cash. And to be honest, at first I was too, but then it became, something more to me and took on a lot of meaning. And so I love this community and the people in it, and that's why I write articles like that, so that these people, they can have light shined onto them, so people can see these people for who they are, so that they can't hurt somebody else or swindle people out of money. And I've done several blog posts about that, which has gained me a little bit of fans too, just from my blog.
Well, as it should, because this is insane. Indie authors have a hard enough time in the publishing world. I've been in the publishing world since I published my first book in 2007. But that book was 30 years in the making, and I can tell you all the rejection letters I got. And it's in that time in 2007 in the indie world, we were literally laughed at. People literally said, "Oh, they called us you're self-published, so you're not any good." And I'm going, hide and watch. One day you're going to want me, and I ain't going to be here. And we've gained a fair amount of respectability in the publishing world, and then for some people to come and do something this crass and rude and socially unacceptable makes me want to get the flying monkeys out after them.
Yeah, it's a lot of things have been going on like that, that just discredit the community and, make it something to laugh at. There's plenty of things going around, now that just diminishes us as a whole, and it continues to grow every day because it's almost like people are reinforcing this type of behavior, which is completely unprofessional of the authors doing it. And for some reason, they seem to be getting rewarded for it, while hardworking authors, people that are actually trying to make a career out of this, or take this seriously as an art, are kind of getting shafted.
Well, again, I have a saying. It says, everything that is in the darkness will come to the light. And those of us that this is our passion, that we can't live unless we write, we will still be here when Armageddon comes. The rest of them will fade away because it's like you said, those that want to get rich now, and I preach this all the time, if you want to get rich, then get out of this profession because it's not going to make you rich.
I agree with that.
And the reason being is because the publishing industry is so large. You go in any bookstore and there's thousands of books that are sitting on a bookshelf.
Mhm.
But if we don't write, then I know I go insane more so than normal. And with the role playing and the writing that you do, you're there. If you're not getting there, you're there already. You have to write.
Yeah. Nowadays it's just you get these stories in your head, and they sound good, they sound great, and you know people are going to like them, so you have to get them down, and it is more than just making a quick buck, because that you're probably only going to make about $1. I mean, the indie community, for all the help and support that you get, it's not a full-time job. It's not even a part-time job, really. You don't have enough money to live off of just being a indie author, usually not in your first year, I'd say, or maybe even second or third, fifth, for some people. So, but there are people out there that abuse the system to make money, and it hurts us overall, and it makes us less likely to be picked up by publishers, especially with people doing these sorts of things. And they want to steer clear from this community because a lot of the things that people do nowadays makes out to be a joke. And there's some of the bigger ones, some of the bigger indie authors. Like I said, these people get rewarded. So when legitimate publishers and agents, come looking, that's the first thing they see because they're the biggest names out there. And, they just turn right back around.
Yeah, because they don't want to be in the middle of the drama.
Exactly, and there's no shortage of that.
Of course, I laugh at them. I just turn around and say, okay, see you, bye, you're gone. One more thing I want to, this is a beautiful blog, Kyle. You need to, my suggestion would be put this blog on your Facebook page and in your writing groups, because this is an excellent, excellent blog. And one of the things that I am a proponent of, just like you are, is putting spoilers in your reviews. Nothing pisses me off more than to start looking at a book and reading. I've read the synopsis, then I go down and run down through the reviews, and before I'm done, they've told me everything that was in the book and even how it ended. That's not what a review is.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say with that, is that a review is just kind of how you felt about the book, your personal take on it, whether it holds any merit for the price, that sort of thing. Like if it was something that grabbed you, it's not a summary of the story itself, and a lot of people do that, and for a lot of people, that's just going to ruin it and turn them away from a book. So no matter how helpful the review is, it actually hurts the author and it hurts other readers, because then they don't get to experience the story. It's just the same as, somebody watching The Walking Dead. They don't want the ending of the TV show announced to them on Facebook before they finish watching it or start watching it. It's the same concept. I don't know anybody that doesn't like spoilers. I think it's pretty universally hated.
And how many times have they posted the spoiler? And I don't even like that show, but when I see the spoiler on it, I like it even less, because they've already telegraphed what's going to happen. So what's the point in watching it? I've already read the cliff notes. I don't need the whole book.
Yeah, and now people just do it to mess with other people. And it's not just that show, but it's just about every show. They're like, hey, just so you know, this person died. Or will send me a private message like that, and I'm like, are you serious?
Now I don't want to know how they died. I just know they died. So you just took away all my fun.
Yeah.
Now, since we've covered all the don'ts of what we don't want our fans and readers to do, and we would appreciate it very much if y'all followed suggestions, because it makes our life easier. And in my case, I'll just send the flying monkeys after you and be done with it. How do you manage? And as you get to know me more, Kyle, you'll know all about the flying monkeys. How do you blend your genre? You blend different genres together. I was reading some of the stuff before the show, some of your storylines in some of your books, and you blend them together real well. So explain to the folks how you do that.
Well, what I do is a lot of times before I write a book, I'll actually create the world, or I'll create the characters in my head or write them down, that sort of thing. And when you create a world with set lore, which is like the fictional history of this universe or whatever universe you're in when you're writing, once you have the lore set, you kind of have a guideline as to what you can and can't do. You know, so you don't. It's no longer just winging it. You kind of already have a set plan, because based on the history of the world, the politics, the religions, the just how the people interact with each other, you know what your character can do. You know, so if your character is a certain race, like say elves, and elves have always been held down by dwarves, and for the last 1,000 years in this universe, you know that for the next few books, elves are probably not going to get along well with dwarves, so you can incorporate that sort of stuff. So what I do is I like to cross a lot of my characters over to other books and keep them all within the same universe, so that people can find little Easter eggs from one book into another. So for the people that are paying attention and love to read all my books, they'll find little things. I don't know if you know what an Easter egg is.
Yes. Hidden gems.
Okay. So, like, when what was it, Indiana Jones, he hid in the fridge to avoid the nuclear blast or the bomb?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? All right,
yes.
So there's a game called Fallout where the end of the world has happened. Bombs have dropped down 200 years ago. And in the game, you get to walk by this refrigerator, and it's got a guy, a skeleton, sitting inside a refrigerator on the side of the road, and he's got a cowboy hat on, and it's kind of an Easter egg to that. You see what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of how my books are. I put tiny little things in each of my books that connect the universes, and if you draw the lines yourself, you'll see that all of my books are connected in some way. And I guess it's kind of a reward for the reader to be able to find those.
And are they difficult to find?
No, I mean, if you've read the books, you'll probably get them right away. If you've only read one book, you probably won't even notice. You would never think of it. But then going to another book and reading it, you go back. It makes the wheels start turning in your head about the first book, and maybe a little something that you read that connected that book. So you might want to read the first book again.
A very favorite author of mine did that to me years ago by the name of Anne Rice. I don't know if you've read any of her work.
No.
Well, the first book of hers that I ever read was Interview with a Vampire. And she put all those little Easter eggs in there. Well, that was the second in the series, so I had to go back and read the first book, which was The Vampire Lestat.
Right.
And just like you, through all of her books, she's put those little tidbits that if you skip a book, you have to go back and read the previous book, because you can't stand it. It just sits in your brain and niggles at you and eats at you and drives you crazy until you figure out, well, who was the Queen of the Damned?
Well, Quentin Tarantino does it a lot too. Like there's a guy in Pulp Fiction, John Travolta, who plays
yes.
I forget his name, but he has like a mullet.
Yes.
Anyway, there's another guy in Reservoir Dogs that has the same last name as him, and if you look deeper, you actually find out that they're brothers, which makes those two movies in the same universe, which is kind of cool. It makes you want to go back and watch the other one.
Oh, you're an evil man, Kyle. You are an evil man. an evil, evil man. I'm telling you.
It's just things like that, and it's. I think it's rewarding for the readers, and the reason that I know it is because when I play video games, when I find Easter, I'll sit there all day just looking up online where I can find each Easter egg of a game, and I'll spend the whole day not actually playing the game, but just finding all the little Easter eggs from the other games, movies, books, songs, that sort of thing.
You just like to go on scavenger hunts. That's what you do. So tell your viewers about this first book, because I'm sitting here looking at the synopsis. How did you come about writing this book?
I think that one I thought of in the bathtub. Honestly, I think I was just taking a bath and thought of that whole world and just came out and started writing, and started laying down the foundation for what I was going to do with that book. But it's a book set on Mars in a distant future, but not too distant, and it's a whole society that lives under a dome after the collapse of Earth, and they're basically oppressed by this government that are constantly holding down their people because they need to, because there's a fight for resources and work, and it's just a tiny community, and they have nowhere to go outside of that dome. So my main character and a few others are starting to realize that there's a lot of things they don't know about the past that's starting to come to light, and makes them question a lot of things about how they've lived, how everyone's lived, and it starts a revolution. And that's kind of the point of the book, the underdog taking on a giant.
Sort of like what we're experiencing right now.
Sort of, yeah.
Then there's this interesting one called Bait, Brutes, and Bullets. Now,
yep,
this one really grabbed my attention.
Yeah, that one has a similar scenario, except they're in Biloxi, and this is after the sea levels have risen, and they live under a dome right off the coast, because the coast is now, the water has risen over Biloxi. If you know about that area, it'd be underwater pretty fast. And yeah, me too. So what they do is it's about a guy who's on top in his casino, down there, and those people that live under the dome, they have a lot of money, their own currency. But the people outside the dome that live up on the coast, they don't have much of a life, because the world has changed a lot for the people on the surface. But the thing is that the casino bosses are all fighting each other for the top spot, and they're starting to win over Harvey, the protagonist. And the only solution he can find is to bring something new that nobody has there, and that's this new drug that people out in the swamp are talking about. And that's when he goes out to meet the girl, and and the whole story begins. But yeah, it's, without giving away too much, it's probably in my top two favorites right there.
I'm probably gonna have to go buy it, because as soon as I saw it, I thought, this one just might grab me. Then you have one called The Divide.
ACTA, yeah.
Explain that one to me.
That one's about two worlds. It's similar to Bates, Brutes, and Bullets in the way that it's two different worlds trying to come to terms with living alongside each other. It's basically a steampunk flying city, above a medieval world. There's like a bunch of magic on the surface, but the people in the sky, they rely completely on technology. So they have all this advanced technology, but the people on the ground have magic, so it kind of evens itself out. But it's basically them finding a way to live among each other because, one's running out of resources, the other's running out of resources, and the only way that they're going to make it work is by working together. And that's why they send my guy down, who kind of acts as ambassador.
See, there's another one that I'm going to have to download. Y'all are trying to drive me crazy, aren't you? See, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I have such a diverse group of people on this show, because we learn things. I would have, if I'd not had Kyle on my show, I probably would not have even thought to look up these books because I wouldn't have known about them. So, learn things. Go forth and learn things. Now, you're writing one with Virginia Johnson. And again, you're blending genres, correct?
Yep, in a way.
It's a sci-fi romance.
It's a sci-fi romance fantasy, I'd say. It's kind of like, Star Wars you could consider a mixture of sci-fi and fantasy, because while they have, advanced technology, they also still have swords and they have magic, the Force, and they walk around as knights and wear robes, and so it's kind of like a blend like that. It's an arc, a place that's left Earth a long, long, long time ago, and they're trying to find a new place to live. Nothing's viable in our solar system anymore, and so they go out. I don't want to give away too much about this book, but it's going to be pretty cool. They end up finding a planet called Kepler, which is actually a real place, and meeting the people that live there. So it's going to be pretty interesting. But we're like 5 chapters in, but it'll be done pretty soon.
Well, you have to come back so that we can launch the book on. You and Virginia will have to come back so we can launch the book on this show.
Yeah, for sure.
So you got to keep me. You have to keep those inquiring minds informed so that I can get you in on the month that the book is finished and ready to come out, and we'll just launch it on this show because that will be so much fun. Book cover and everything.
Yeah, I'll definitely keep you in the loop.
There you go. See how easy this is, ladies and gentlemen? Go ahead, Kyle.
I was just going to say, if I didn't know if you were going to talk about T-Breeze at all, but go ahead with what you were saying.
No, let's talk about T-Breeze because that one was next on my list.
I was just going to explain that one real quick, just to get it out of the way. But T-Breeze is it's a story about a guy who's an alcoholic. He's kind of lived a pretty bad life. And he's kind of brought it on himself. And his girlfriend just got fed up with it. She was feeling alone, so she went out and met a group of people, that could help her. One of those, like not AA, but one of those kind of places where you go for support. And it ended up being that it was a place that actually a cult was recruiting from. And it takes place around where I live. So all the scenes, the places there, it's all very real. And I've done a lot of research on religion and the occult and these like fringe societies. So it's coming from a real place, with people I know in real life that I've added as characters for the first time in one of my books. And, so far a lot of people seem to like it. And I guess it comes from a different place than my other books, because my other books are set off in these far-off worlds, and while this one is set now, like in a place I actually live with people I actually know, so it's a lot more personal. But
did you find it harder to write?
No, it actually came easier than the other ones. It was just because I was basing them off of other people, I know how those people would respond to just about any situation, so it goes back to when I said that, I like to write the lore of my books beforehand, so I have a guideline. Well, these people have spent their whole life writing it for me already just by being them.
When you started putting that book together, as writers are prone to do, the voices that were writing the book, because we're just the facilitators, it's the voices in our head that do that. Did you find yourself actually hearing the voices of the people that you know that were the characters were based on? Did you hear their voices in your head writing that book?
Oh yeah, and especially mine. It's kind of funny. The character, the main character, the protagonist, is loosely based on me. Yeah, it's just a past version of me before I kind of grew up. So, being able to put myself in the shoes of this character, along with being able to visualize my friends actually taking part in this world in my own area that I actually live in, it made it a lot easier to write. And yeah, I heard their voices, and they were super excited about being part of the book. So, they all want their copies, and they think it's great.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine that says that he always wanted to be famous, and the only way he knew to be famous was to die in a plane crash because he flies a lot. Well, he's in actually, he's in 3 of my books. So he says, now I don't have to die in a plane crash to be famous. I'm famous in your book. So yeah, I understand their feeling of, it makes them feel special and important.
Yeah. And those people obviously are important to you, or you wouldn't write about them, right?
Exactly. They're very important, and I hold them dear because this particular friend, his name's Peter Fondura. Some days he is what keeps me going because he's always saying, Yvonne, I need a book. I'm out of books. When are you going to write a book? And then when I put the book out, he'll say, Yvonne, now watch on eBay because I'm going to be selling your trash on eBay because you're famous now. just stuff like that. Okay, Peter, sell the trash on eBay if it makes you happy.
Yeah, it's good to have people like that in your life.
He is insane. So tell the folks where you can be found, because I know where I'm going when we get off this second hour. I'm going to go download some books on my Kindle. So tell the folks where you can be found and how they can get your books.
Well, Twitter. You can find me on Twitter. I made a Twitter bot app. It's at Kyle P. Author. Facebook, you can find me there. Just search in Kyle Perkins. You can find myself, or my author page. My blog is kyleperkinsauthor.com. It's pretty easy to remember. The Indie Book Channel, if you type that in, there's only going to be one result, and that's us. And the Tampa Indie Author Book Convention is also us.
Now, you're a dreamer like I am, and it shows because you started the role-playing games, and that led you to writing books. But before all of that, like me, you were bored in school, so you made up stories. So we're dreamers. We've made our dreams real. What would you say to someone who came to you and said, Kyle, I'm so envious of you. How do you do it? You had a dream, you made it real. I have a dream and it's this, but.
Well, most people, when they ask me, because I have a lot of friends that are aspiring writers, but one theme that I find in common of people that are published and the people that aren't is that the people that aren't, they just don't finish a project. And whether that's due to insecurity, sometimes just laziness. I mean, that happens to all of us. We all get a little bit lazy sometimes. And sometimes they just don't think, it's good enough, or nobody's going to read it, so what's the point, and that kind of thing. But if everybody thought that, nothing would ever get done, and there would be no creativity left in the world. So what I tell them is to just, make sure that they finish something. Just finish one thing, Instead of having 10 projects open and just saying that you're writing 10 books for 3 or 4 years, you can actually just finish one, and then you have something out there. You can get some feedback, and 9 times out of 10, this community is so helpful, and they're willing to go out of their way to help people a lot of the times. People that aren't even paid to do this, they do it because they love the authors, which is something that I think is really special. I've never found a community that does that, but if those people just put something out there, they're going to get good feedback for it. Just because no matter what you write or what you do, there's somebody out there that's going to like it and think that you're a genius. Somebody that thinks that you're better than anything they've ever seen, anything they've ever read, and that's who you need to write for, and that's who you need to do anything for.
And for your own self gratification, because at the end of our days, and I say this at the end of every show, at the end of our days, and we know that our moments are coming to a close, and somebody says, well, do you have any regrets? I want to look at them and say, no, I have no regrets. I did everything I wanted to do. I left a message. I left my mark. There's something there between the dash. People shouldn't live with regrets. So if they have a dream, don't you agree that whatever it takes, they should go after that dream?
My biggest regret is that I didn't do it sooner. And if that's the only regret that I have, then I can live with that. What I couldn't live with is having the regret that I didn't do something that I knew would make me happy. And so for these people that are insecure or just afraid to do something because it seems like too big a project to take on, the regret of not doing what you know that you love is something far heavier to take on.
That is true, because then you feel like your life is unfulfilled. I may never sell another book in my entire life, but I don't care because I've done that. I fulfilled that dream. I was successful at that dream because I did it. I would rather try something and it not come to fruition all the way than not try anything at all and be a failure at it because I didn't at least try it.
Yeah, I've tried and failed a million things, but I'm happy I said that I can say that I did it. Did those things and tried.
And you really didn't, but you didn't fail at it. You succeeded because you at least tried it. To have not tried it at all, now that's failure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're failing yourself if you don't put something out there and you know that in your heart you want to do it. You're failing yourself and you're failing potential, people that would love you. There's so many undiscovered people out there that are just too afraid to pull the trigger, and if they did, who knows what creativity or what great things we could have in the world right now.
Or even what an impact you would have on someone else's life to try something that they were afraid to try because they were afraid of failure. Just think if Thomas Edison hadn't kept failing at making the light bulb, we'd still be in the dark.
Exactly.
Of course, some of us are still in the dark, but that's another story within itself. I'm glad you understand my dry wit. Ladies and gentlemen, this is off. Yes, you do. This is Off the Chain, and this is your host, Yvonne Mason. My guest tonight is Kyle Perkins, and in a few minutes, our guest for the 9 o'clock hour will be coming on. Her name is Lila, Vale, and she is also an author. And while we're waiting on her to come on, I will cut away in a few minutes and do another self-gratifying ad because I can. But we have a couple of more minutes, Kyle. Tell me any thoughts, any closing thoughts that you have for our listening audience. What pearls of wisdom do you have out there?
I don't know. Kind of put me on the spot there.
I do that.
No, if your audience is an indie community, is mainly the indie community, I would tell them to go to my blog. If they want some kind of pearls of wisdom, things to watch out for, people to watch out for, organizations to watch out for, just the types of people or the things that they're doing right, because I write plenty about, how awesome this community is. But I like to point out both sides and just keep everything real because, this is real life and this is a lot of people's careers, So I don't want them diminished by somebody else's actions, and I don't want them to miss out on opportunities because, a lot of us are looked at as a joke, especially with how certain people behave. And, I'd love for everybody in the indie community to go through some of my articles and just kind of see what what I'm about, and advice. Even people that are just aspiring authors. I have an article there for aspiring authors, struggling authors, and I'd encourage anybody to read that.
And your advice, because I've read it, it could be for anyone that has a dream, not just an author.
Yeah. Yep.
It's very well done. Ladies and gentlemen, go to Kyle's blog because you will see so many wonderful things. You'll see his books, you'll see his blog, you'll see the do's and don'ts for readers. And please, ladies and gentlemen, don't give the storyline away when you do a review. That's not a review. That's storytelling.
That's a summary.
Yeah, it's a summary. There you go. That's the word. That's the summary of the book. We don't want a summary. We want a review. So what we're going to do is, Kyle, thank you, my dear, for being with me tonight. I'm going to bring you back on, so keep me in the loop about your new book.
Will do. I can even add you to my group, and then you won't be able to miss it.
There you go. That's a good idea. Add me when we get off here to your group, and then I will know what's going on, because inquiring minds always want to know. I'm going to break away from here and get Lila online next. Thank you, Kyle, so very much for spending time with me. I appreciate it more than you ever will know.
No problem. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. And we're going to break away for about 2.5 minutes, and when we come back, we'll have Lila Vale with us, author.
Huh? No. She's locked up. Are you going to listen to me or do you want to call her? Okay.
On October 3rd.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Yvonne Mason, and this is Off the Chain. And my second guest tonight in the 9 o'clock hour is Miss Lila Vale, and she says that she has spent more time in her own mind than she has been present in this real world. So when it comes to talking about herself, everything Lila seems so mundane compared to the things she's seen and done in her imagination. This might have something to do with why she decided to start putting her words to share with others. She grew up in a semi-rural town in Florida, and she's always been an avid reader and writer, but she didn't have the balls to publish anything before now. She is also a huge fan of wasting time on the Internet, a woman after my own heart. She has been a waitress, a secretary. She's worked in retail, done manual labor, all of which paid much better than hustling as an indie author. Amen, Brother Ben. But it's nowhere as much fun as it is being an indie author. She loves her life as a writer and wouldn't have it any other way. She will eat ramen noodles every day for the rest of her life if it means she can keep telling stories. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you see something from Lila saying, I need ramen noodles, get her address and send her some. Hello, Miss Lila. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I love your bio. It's hysterical. So, tell me about waitressing and secretarian and retail, because this could be my bio. I've been a waitress, I've been a secretary, I've been in retail, I've done manual labor, all of the above. So how did you get from there to writing books?
Well, I guess I always wrote as a kind of a hobby while I was doing all that. But I finally just decided, I don't know if it was nearing 30. I'm past 30 now, but I don't know if that's what kind of gave me the kick in the ass, or Kyle helped with that. He helped encourage me to go ahead and give it a shot, and try publishing something. But because I did it for a hobby for so long, everything else was, pay the bills. You got to pay the bills and whatnot. But I decided to just go for it, and so far so good. A few hiccups here and there, as always, but it's definitely much more rewarding. I really like putting something that I have created that's my own out into the world, and seeing the way it affects people, or just people enjoying it. It's pretty neat. So,
well, I read something interesting about you, and
okay.
and I'm not going to give away what you write, because when I read these titles of some of these books that you enjoy reading, it's almost like a look in the mirror, I guess you could say. But then again, it's almost conflicting from what you write. You read The Scarlet Letter, Pride and Prejudice, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Body Farm, Silence of the Lambs, Interview with a Vampire. The last three are three of my favorite books.
Oh, wow.
Because, Anne Rice is one of Interview with a Vampire was the first book I ever read by Anne Rice, and that was in the 90s. And now I can't get enough of her. I've read everything she's ever written. I just soak up like a sponge. But The Body Farm and Silence of the Lambs, that's a genre that I write in. So I'm going, okay, we've gone from The Scarlet Letter to Silence of the Lambs and Interview with a Vampire. Okay, explain your confliction here, my child.
Well, pretty much in a lot of those I read a while ago, but it was when I was younger. I loved everything. I loved reading everything, fiction especially, and so as far as like The Body Farm, and I wish I could remember some of these authors that my mom is really into. She likes true crime kind of books and things like that, and so that's what we had on the bookshelf. And so that's what I would read, and I loved them. And then we'd go to the library every once in a while, and I'd pick up something there. And I can't remember when I read Interview with the Vampire, but I do remember that I loved it. And I think that was the first one I read by her. I can't remember if I picked up anything else, just because it was a while ago. I just kind of was consuming any kind of fiction that I could. So basically whatever I could get my hands on. I remember back in middle school, I was reading Silence of the Lambs, and I was trying to do a book report on it. And I actually had a conversation with my mom about this recently, but I was like, it's crazy that my teacher didn't. I'm glad that they didn't try to like censor or stop me from reading this, but I found out that she had, cleared it with my mom that it was okay that I was reading this book, but she was totally fine with it. I've been reading I was reading advanced stuff at a pretty young age, just because I could and I enjoyed it. So
because you had a great mom.
Yeah, I'm so glad that she never tried to hinder me or censor what I read. So I guess that's why I kind of don't really have much of a filter when it comes to stuff too. And so sometimes, especially writing with Kyle, sometimes I'm like, is this too far? I don't know if I have a good gauge about what is too far, because I've been reading this stuff for years, and I didn't turn out to be any kind of crazy psychopath or anything. So,
but Lila, all the best people are.
True. Maybe
Don't you remember
I am.
Don't you remember that from Alice in Wonderland and the Mad Hatter? And he says, I'm crazy, and she says, but all the best people are. So yeah, I'm guilty. Because and like you, and I read everything I could get my hands on. So when I was in 7th grade, I read 2 books that you would never think a 12-year-old would be allowed to read. And I had to do a book report on one of them, and the one that I had to do the book report was Truman Capote's In Cold Blood.
No.
It was required reading in 7th grade, and this was back in the late 50s, early 60s. And then I got so involved in that I turned around and read Helter Skelter.
Nice.
So yeah, I can see, I can appreciate your reading these at a very young age. And just as a little bit of history, do you know what prompted the author to write To Kill a Mockingbird?
I may have known that at one point, but I don't know it now.
All right.
So.
Back in 1933 in Scottsboro, Alabama, there were several people that were riding the freight train, from Chattanooga, Tennessee to Scottsboro. There were 9 young black men hoboing on this train, and there were several white men and 2 white women. When they got to Scottsboro, the 2 white women accused these 9 young black men of raping them.
Oh, wow.
And they were called the Scottsboro Boys. And these young men were convicted. They were not guilty of the crime, but they were convicted of raping these 2 white women that were less than stellar. And
wow.
Some fancy defense lawyers finally got their conviction overturned, but in the meantime, it totally destroyed these young men. Several of them went back to prison for various crimes. But To Kill a Mockingbird was taken from the incidents that happened in Scottsboro in 1933.
Oh, wow. Wow, okay.
So when you get back, go back and read To Kill a Mockingbird with that in mind, and it will bring out the prejudice and the bias and the narrow-mindedness of that time, and really bring it home to you. And the reason that that it came to my attention was I've been looking at that case because I'm seriously considering doing a story. And then when they said that she wrote To Kill a Mockingbird based on those 9 young men, my heart breaks for them because of what happened. I'm looking here and I'm reading your books. I'm going, yeah, she read that. That's a classic. And you know, it was banned. It was banned in the schools for a long time.
Oh yeah, I do not agree with the banning of certain books, and I understand there are a lot of things with just human history that are very uncomfortable to recognize and talk about. But if we pretend that didn't happen, we don't get that insight and perspective that helps us, I guess, do better in the future and make sure it doesn't happen again. So I can't stand what I hear about the classics getting banned for seemingly shallow or silly kind of reasons. So
well, what it does is it makes us uneducated. Because just saying, well, I'm going to ban it because it's uncomfortable to talk about, we don't learn anything from it.
Right. Totally.
And we repeat it. That's what's so bad. We didn't learn, so we repeat it because we're too stupid to bring it out in the light and talk about it.
Right. It's a willful ignorance, and it's a lot easier to kind of put your blinders on and make decisions that could affect other people in a horrible way when you don't have that knowledge or insight into other perspectives and things like that. So I'm definitely with you on that. It's just not good, shooting ourselves in the foot.
And we do it all the time. And why, I do not know. It's like I said, we constantly shoot ourselves in the foot. I write when I write my books, I write about things that are non-pleasant, and some of the people that have reviewed my books have called me out on it and said, I really don't like this book, and my thought to them is, don't read it. It's not for you. But if we don't bring it out, if we don't bring it out in the open, it stays in the dark, and nobody learns.
Right. I totally
agree. That just segues into my next interesting tidbit I learned about you. See, I wasn't a bounty hunter for nothing. Why do you research boring events on Wikipedia?
Oh, it's one of those things. I will read an article, come across some clickbait somewhere, and click on it, and then I see a reference to an event or a thing somewhere that interests me, and then I go and look at that, and then I'm reading about that, and then Wikipedia, each name, each event has another tab that you can open, and so that I just find myself on these like hours long benders of research that I probably will never ever use, but it served me well with Tea Breeze, because when Kyle was talking about wanting to write a book about a cult, and then I had to write a character that didn't seem crazy or completely stupid joining a cult, I had to have that kind of insight of why people would do that in the first place. And one of my Wikipedia benders took me down the path of researching the People's Temple and Jim Jones and all that. So I already had that background knowledge of kind of the more you look into it, you kind of understand why some of these people went. It didn't seem so crazy if you put yourself in their shoes. It did seem like this utopia that they were going to. And so it kind of helped write that perspective, I think. So finally I was like, I can justify my researching ridiculous stuff for hours. So.
But in order to even when you do fantasy or sci-fi, you have to make your characters or even romance. You have to make your characters and your places and your plot line believable, because do you not agree that in this day and age we have a very, for lack of a better word, educated reading audience? We can't fool them.
Right. Yeah. That's something actually I was thinking about the other day, watching an older movie, and like it used to be nice that they could kind of get away with some stuff, like bend the rules of science a little bit and that kind of thing. But nowadays everybody's got Google at their fingertips. You can't get away with that stuff. Like, you have to really kind of back up what you say. So I definitely agree there. You gotta make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's.
Especially if you're writing about a real place. Let's say where I live here in Port St. Lucie and Fort Pierce. If I put a cross street, if I'm using that as the setting for my story, and I put a cross street 3 streets over, you can bet your bottom dollar somebody's going to call me on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm working on a paranormal dystopian right now, and it's set in Ohio. And I was writing a scene where I was just describing the room. It's not a big deal, but that I'm talking about the furniture, and I'm like, well, I want to make sure that in this dystopian future, this furniture is somewhat accurate. What kind of wood would they have access to in that area? What kind of trees? Because there wouldn't be if all the main infrastructure had broken down. Kind of have to be realistic with that, and so that was fun. 2 hours of research for one line of text, but it worked out okay.
If you hadn't done it, somebody from that part of the country would have said, "Lila, this isn't right."
Yep.
Even if Armageddon comes, the Buckeye trees are going to be there.
Yep. Exactly.
So get your facts straight, even if it's fiction, because even if we as writers apologize and say, yes, I know that this is not indicative to this part of the country, but I chose to use it, they're not going to buy it.
Yeah, they want it to be accurate, so for sure. Well, I know as a reader, I would probably, if somebody set something in my area and it was off, I would. It's not like that, It would pull me out of the story, and I don't want to do that. So
no, you want to
while
pull
it's a burden, it's worth it in the end.
every bit of it. Trust me, every bit of it. You wrote an article, which I read, and I want to talk about it a little bit because I think that it is very important in our indie world, and for the readers that read our work but don't understand our community and how we have to support each other and look after each other. And the title of this is An Unavoidable Downside to the Tight-Knit Indie World. Do you remember writing that?
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
So talk about it a little bit, because your first sentence is, and I thought politicians were the experts of spin.
Yeah. That was I'm going to try to talk about it without, which I know I was kind of vague in the post about the situation, but I was hoping to get my message across to those that were familiar with it. But there was somebody who was working with me, and I haven't been around as an indie author for very long, but she was working with me in the beginning, and we were a great team. She did amazing stuff, and I never want to talk down about that or say that she didn't. But we kind of, she stopped being so active and helpful, which is fine. I don't expect anybody to bend. I understand we all have our own obligations in real life and whatnot. So we kind of went our separate ways for a while. And some other fans started helping me a little bit in places that she wasn't able to, that sort of thing. Well, I signed on one day to see a vague book, which is, I think I listened to Virginia when she was on here. She talked about that a little bit, but it's like, somebody writes a status kind of talking about someone without naming them, or a situation without really going into it. And it was about me, and she had kind of disowned me in a way, and left all my groups and that sort of thing. And so I was like, sent her a message, and I said, what's going on here? And I thought that we kind of both agreed that we were just taking our own paths, and we settled it, and it wasn't, there was no animosity as far as I knew. We had a nice conversation. Well, what do you know, 2 days later, there's another similar status that was referencing me, and I messaged her again and just was like, what is this about? What's going on? And she just said, okay. So I was like, all right. So I guess she doesn't want to talk about it. That's fine. I'm not, I don't want to go around and unprofessionally slam someone or try to take away all the help that she gave me, in the beginning and all that. I didn't want any of that. I didn't want it to be an ugly thing, because we were still friends, I thought, and so there was that. Well, then I guess a couple of days later, and I was gone this whole time, so I don't know exactly what happened, but I heard, through the grapevine, somebody, there was a conversation between her and somebody else in a group, and she said something along the lines of that made my fans sound kind of greedy, they're only active, or they only participate when you're giving stuff away, sort of thing. And so that's when I made the blog post, because I believe it was deleted. That whole situation was over with by the time I got home, but I didn't want my fans who had read that to think that that's how I felt because she worked with me for so long. I didn't want them to think that she was speaking for me, like I was thinking they were all these like greedy, just because they're anything but. They all dedicate their free time to helping just anybody. They're great. So that's why I made the blog post, just kind of explaining it and kind of laying it out there. I don't know. I'm pretty bummed out about it. Oh, and I was blocked too when I came home. I hadn't done anything. I hadn't been on all day, and found I was blocked by this friend. So that's kind of the breakdown of it. I'm rambling and forgetting to breathe. So I'm sorry if I sound
That's
a little,
okay. Well, the sad part is, after I read this, I wanted to, and I'm not an emotional person. It's not in my DNA, but I wanted to cry because our indie world it's fragile at best and could fall apart at worst at any given time. And when we surround ourselves with like minds and we support each other, it's like a brother and a sisterhood. And I don't understand why someone would want to hurt their brother or their sister, because my philosophy is this: I am only as successful as I help others to be. That would be you and Kyle and Virginia and all the people that I have on my show. I have spent years, and I mean years, building relationships in the indie world. When I started out in the indie world in 2007, there was a group of us that were with this publisher, and turned out he was a very nefarious publisher. So we all got burned. But the thing that he did for us is that is my core group of people that have been with me for 11 years.
Wow. That's
through
awesome.
Thick and thin, yes, through thick and thin, through ups and downs, through everything that has gone on in our collective lives. We've been there for each other. And I want that for you and for Kyle and for all of my indie authors out there, because it is something that you can never replace, and it is something you cannot put a price tag on. And that just made me so sad when I read about this. I'm thinking, why would someone do that? What triggered it? Why couldn't they just say, okay, let's clear the air here and become stronger together, because it's like family. You're going to have disagreements. It's just the nature of the beast. But at the end of the day, you all want to kiss and make up, because there should be no jealousy among us. There should be no, oh, you've got this and I don't, because we're all striving for the same thing.
Right. That's kind of how I felt about it, and I was kind of blown away, and why I tried to take it to, privately talk to her about it. I didn't want to have this big, ugly, public thing, and I still, I'm still didn't want to name her in my blog or affect anything that she might want to pursue in the future, by saying mean things. That's not in my nature. And I think I said it in the blog, and I firmly believe it, that your success is the success of the people around you. It's important to like you said, stronger together. It's important to help each other and be understanding when if our paths have to go different ways and we can't work with each other still, that doesn't mean we have to be enemies. We could still be fine. It's not a big deal.
And it doesn't mean that you can't take the same journey.
Right.
I mean, we're all taking this same journey. Some of us we're taking the same journey, but we're taking different venues to get there. It doesn't mean we're not all on the same journey, because we all want the same thing. We all want our work out there for other people to enjoy. Otherwise, if we don't want it, we go insane. But And we all have to have each other because we don't have the luxury of the big six in the publishing industry. We don't have the luxury of high-dollar agents. Number one, I wouldn't have them because they cost too much, and I'm greedy, and I want it all in my pocket. And we don't I'm very greedy. I can't help it. And when you think of it, when you publish with the big six and you have all those high-dollar agents, we can't have these kind of conversations because I have to go through 50,000 people just to get an okay for you to be on my show, and then they give me this list of prepared questions that don't mean diddly squat to me because my audience think I know any more about you than they did before we got on the
right.
show together.
Might as well just like play a recorded conversation.
Exactly.
If that's what they want.
When it's a whole lot more fun this way, because I don't ever know what's going to happen on Off the Chain. And so maybe one day, if she hasn't burnt her bridge, she will come around. Now, we all know if one burns a bridge that it's almost impossible to rebuild that bridge because it's never the same. It's never strong.
Mhm.
It's like breaking a plate. And you glue it back together, it's never as strong as it was before. So hopefully this will pass and the bridge isn't burnt and she will understand the error of her ways and come back to the fold, and we will forgive her and love her and help her succeed
yeah.
too.
I hope so. That's why I wrote the blog, just to make sure I was clear on some things, because the way it was, I was just being quiet about it, let her blow off some steam kind of thing. But then when it got to where she was saying things that sounded like accusations at my fans and my support base, your fans are more than just people that read your work when you're an indie author. They're everything. And I didn't want anybody to have read that and think that maybe that's how, because I could be kind of quiet online. I'm not super dramatic, or I'm kind of boring sometimes. Like I'm like, everybody check out this funny cat meme. Like that's it. I'm not somebody that has new drama every day. Even if I've got something frustrating me, I'm not going to publicly blast it out there.
I don't have time for drama.
Yeah, I know. That's another thing. I was really busy at the time too, and I was still busy trying to write books and stuff. But we had just released T-Breeze. We were about to release T-Breeze 2, and I signed on after being gone all day, and I was like, I don't have time for this. But I was like, maybe if I make this post and just like get it out there, it's there. So if anybody's curious, they can go read it, and I can go back to what I want to do, which is just write, So I was hoping to get it out there, but
well, you know what you could
I
do?
hope that. What's that?
You could put this whole incident in one of your books and kill her off.
Oh, yeah, I can always do that.
Yeah, that's what I do with people that piss me off. I just put them in a book and kill them off.
Yeah, it's definitely a good source for that feeling of just betrayal, or why would you do this? But I don't know what the vague books were about. I don't know if maybe she assumed that I was talking shit or something. I wasn't, but maybe she assumed that I was and wanted to get ahead of it. I don't know. I really was kind of baffled by the whole thing, but it's out there now. There's a blog, and maybe someday in the future we'll smooth it over. I'm definitely open to it. I don't like having enemies out there, or people that are mad at me or upset with me. So we'll see.
Who knows? This particular show may set it back on its right axis. One never knows the way that the wheel turns or why it turns, but it will turn. And maybe, and I have found this in this journey, that sometimes, and in human nature in general, is that people have a tendency to see things in others that they don't like in themselves. Not saying that that's what happened, but we tend to do that, or we see things in others that we wish we were like that. And instead of just being happy where we are, we're going to tear that other person down because we're kind of down ourselves. So misery loves company, so we're going to bring them along with us for the ride. Who knows?
Yeah. Yep. That is
but,
quite possible.
But let's have some more fun.
Yeah, fun.
Tell the lovely audience what genre you write, because it's none of these books that you read.
Well, right now I've got Monty is paranormal. Bait, Roots, and Bullets is dystopian-ish. Dystopian action adventure romance kind of. That's the blend. I'm a lot like Kyle. I think that's one of the reasons we work well together is I like to, maybe it's because of my eclectic taste in books, I like to blend stuff, genres. So I usually have one big label for it, but I can't, it's usually more than just like Bait, Roots, and Bullets is more than dystopian. And let's see, T-Breeze is present day. There's kind of some romantic elements, but it's mostly, I guess, it kind of goes into a almost paranormal sci-fi kind of thing. Let's see. I have a short in Doctrine of Indecency. It's got alien sex, so that's
oh, that just sent a visual through my head.
They're hot aliens, though. I made sure that they were hot, so I couldn't have. I didn't want to have the tentacles and stuff like that. So
that could kind of ruin the mood in a hurry.
Yeah.
Oh, gee, the visual there. Okay, moving on, because that visual I cannot get out of my head.
Sorry about that, or you're welcome. I don't know.
Well, tell me about Monte, because this is your newest book, right?
Oh, Monty was actually my debut release with T-Breeze is the newest. But Monty, that was just kind of a fun little book that I started writing, and I talked to Kyle about it a little bit, and he offered to write Monty's perspective, which was great because I was kind of not sure. I knew what I wanted, but I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to pull it off. And so I was like, sure, let's just trade off chapters on this and see. And he just absolutely nailed what I was hoping for. And so the rest is history with that one. It's a short, and it's dark-ish erotica with paranormal and a couple of very raunchy scenes. So it's basically it's pure smut, but it's great. I absolutely love Monty, and I'm really excited to write the next one. Where we started on it a little while back, and we'll be starting that back up pretty soon. So yeah, that's Monty. So
where can Monty be found other than in your imagination? Is he in paperback? Is he on Kindle?
Oh yeah. He's he's just on Amazon. It's 99 cents, so it's pretty cheap little book for the ebook, and we also have paperbacks. They're pretty thin. They're small because it's a novella, but they're pretty. So and then since Kyle and I are near each other, we basically all the signed paperback forms. If anybody wants to go through him, he's got the form up and everything, and I'll sign them and everything. So we both sign them when it's a co-written book by us. So that's kind of a nice little thing. But if they don't want it signed, they can order it straight through Amazon. Paperbacks are available there as well. And I believe Monty is on Kindle Unlimited. I don't know if I said that already. I'm rambling. This is my first radio show or interview.
Well, you're doing wonderful.
So,
it's just me and you and 5,000 listeners. I mean, it's just a small group of us. It's no big deal. That's what I always tell everybody. It's just you and I having a conversation with 5,000 eavesdroppers.
Ah. No big deal.
No big
it's
deal.
It's not much worse than the NSA, right?
Right. And I'm sure the NSA listens in on a lot of my calls, and I hope they get their ears full. I have a thing against the NSA. I am not pro tap into my phone. So if they want to tap into my phone, I'm going to give them something to listen to.
Oh, yeah,
that's
a good thing.
Yeah, so guys, if you're listening, it's Monty, it's Nut, it's hot. He's hot, so jump right in anytime.
Yep.
What made you write the story of Monty? I mean, it's intriguing. Again, that's not a genre I read. Like, I don't read romance because I don't believe in happily ever after. But it's interesting. It intrigues me simply from your description and your perspective of him.
I kind of wanted to write. I really wanted to, and I can't remember if I read something or watched a movie or whatever. And it's always kind of frustrated me that, like, demons and evil creatures are portrayed in a way like they come onto the scene and they're ugly as hell, and you would instantly run away from them. If something was to pull someone over to the dark side, to me, I would think they would present themselves in a very appealing form, that sort of thing. And so that kind of started the idea of Monty. I was like, and then I got to where I'm like, if this creature, this demon or whatever, he has all this power, would he really take this all that seriously? And then Kyle and I kind of were spitballing and talking about different personality aspects. So we kind of came up with this. He's a bad guy, and you shouldn't like him, but you do anyway. Like, he's just kind of this kind of flippant villain that you end up really enjoying. So that's kind of the idea where Monty came from, a frustration of too many, like, evil things coming onto the scene, looking and being just unappealing and repulsive, when I feel like that doesn't make sense. So
because evil can be appealing. Serial killers. Some of Gerard Schaefer, the serial killer in Silent Scream that I wrote, he was very good looking, very charismatic, and he killed 35 young girls and women. And they went with him willingly. So you're right. Evil does not always present itself in its truest form. Right.
That's
very interesting concept.
So, I mean, if Monty was if he was a human, then maybe I could get away with making him kind of, busted. But, if he was maybe a human, because then that might help explain why he's a psychopath, because, he was ostracized his whole life or something like that. But when it's a paranormal creature that can take any form they want to me, I just feel like they would take an appealing sort of, depending on their goals. If they want to just scare the shit out of you, of course they're going to be scary. But if they're trying to manipulate or mess around with people or mess with their minds, I would think that they would kind of present themselves in a more appealing form. So,
and you're right, and that is truer than most people realize, that evil does not always come, because evil wants to suck you in. Evil's not going to suck you in if it comes in its truest form of ugly and decay and death and all the other stuff. It's going to come to you pure and clean and handsome and buffed out and sense of humor and swag and wrap its arms around you. So that is a genius on your part to portray him as something that you want to be around. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah.
I do.
And
I
mean,
do.
Victoria, who is the perspective that I wrote the majority of her perspective, she's pretty normal in that she kind of struggles with that too, realizing that he is evil, wrapped up in this nice package, but then kind of she struggles with like, but do I want to just be evil because this is really fun, that kind of thing. So that's, you get a lot of her internal conflicting feelings, like I shouldn't like this, but maybe I do, kind of thing. So it's definitely a lot of fun to write. I'm excited to get back to it. So.
All right, and you are going to do another one, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, the next one will be a full-length book. The first one was small, and it was just a fun kind of thing to see how we wrote together and if it would work. And also, I was a new indie author with a pen name, so nobody knew who the hell I was. And so I kind of wanted to get something out there that was, a low-risk buy. If they want to, it's, 99 cents, they can test out my writing and see if it's something, if it's something they like, because there are lots of talented authors out there that for whatever reason their writing doesn't connect with people. So I wanted to give people an opportunity to give me a shot and then follow me as I release more books, and I kind of wanted to test out Monty and see how people liked the concept, and so far so good. So I know we have a couple of people out there anxiously awaiting the next one. So,
well, you also have one called Doctrine of Indecency.
Yes, that was the anthology that we it's 18 authors. We all just kind of were like, let's all write some short stories and put them all together and see how it goes. So. That was just a for fun project. It's completely free. Anybody can go pick it up and kind of try out 18 different authors and see if they like them. And the stories are all good. I picked it up and couldn't put it down. I really liked different parts of every one of them, and picked up a few new authors that I follow now. So, I mean, I follow all of them, but a few of them that I really was like, this is my kind of reading here. I like this their style, or the way they describe things, or just the story, the plot overall. So it's a neat little book. But that's the one with the alien in it. So
that's there we go with the alien thing again. I just got that visual out of my head, and now you put. Thank you, Lila. Thank you so much. You're a good friend.
Anytime.
What are friends for? I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to, because I just saw the synopsis on Monty, and it reads so well. I'm going to read it. I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. It's, ladies and gentlemen, the synopsis reads, a realist through and through, Victoria Wyrick lives in a practical life. She has no patience for the whimsical. Her friends are believers, however, and they plan a night of clumsy attempts to summon the supernatural in order to prove the naysayer wrong. She begrudgingly attends, if only to laugh at their foolishness. That night, a mysterious silver-tongued stranger shows up out of nowhere. An apex predator, he is as captivating as he is dangerous, and his sights are set on Victoria. In the course of an evening, everything she thinks she knows is thrown out the window. Lured into the game of an unforgiving master, she quickly learns there is no such thing as harmless fun when it comes to the otherworldly. That is an amazing synopsis. I like that.
Thank you.
Because what it does is it grabs the reader really, really quick. Because you have all the who, what, when, where, how, and what.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you like it. I'm always nervous. Writing blurbs is probably my least favorite part of everything, because there's so much. As being an author, you almost want to over-explain everything, and it's really hard for me to narrow it down to just the important stuff that's going to let people know what kind of book this is, and whether or not they want to read it. So that means a lot. Thank you. I'm glad,
You're quite
glad
welcome,
you like
because it has all the as I call the investigative questions, the who, what, when, where, and how, and the what, but yet it makes you want to go buy the book, because here you have this very practical young woman who doesn't believe in summoning the supernatural, but she does just so she can prove her friends wrong, and then all hell breaks loose.
Mhm. Yep.
And she sees that she kind of likes all hell breaking loose.
Yep. She learns she starts to believe. For a lot of the book, she isn't sure if she's just losing her mind. So that's kind of a fun journey for her to take, trying to figure out if she's crazy or if it's really happening, or if it's really happening and she's crazy. Like it's a fun little book.
I might have to break down and get that book just because you've piqued my interest, and I can't get the visual of the aliens out of my head, so that will get the visual of the aliens.
Is that a new one?
Now, what made you and Kyle do a second part to Tea Breeze?
We originally, when we talked about it, he really wanted to write. We had started on Monty too, and he was writing Kepler with Virginia Johnson, and he was having a little bit of trouble because he had the idea for Tea Breeze that was kind of blocking his progress with those other books. At least this is how he explained it to me.
That happened.
And so I was like, well, then why? I was like, why don't we can write it? But it was like, and he was like, well, I want to get it out as soon as possible. And so we kind of came to the decision, or he kind of did, and I went along with it because I was like, book covers and releases, each one of these is going to be, a bunch of stuff to do, but it ended up working out. But he wanted to do it in sort of a rapid fire kind of format, and it ended up the way we had it. We could have released it in smaller portions as a serial, but we after we started writing, we really wanted to have it to where somebody that picked up Tea Breeze Part 1 would still get a satisfying story. It wouldn't cut off in the middle of the plot or anything like that, because I know a lot of people hate cliffhangers. And so there's a little bit of a what's going to happen next at the end of it, but it is a complete story. And then the continuation, Part 2, probably couldn't be read as a standalone because we reference a lot of stuff from Part 1, but that's basically why we released it that way, though, just to get it out faster and get everybody the opportunity to read it. But the paperbacks contain both stories, so we went ahead and had to do some maneuvering with publishing it on Amazon like that. But the ebooks you can buy each part separately, or if you get the paperback, you can get it all together. So
you've been busy.
Yeah. It's been a busy year. It's been great though. It's been a lot of fun. So.
Well, tell the lovely listeners, our 5,000 closest friends out in the entertainment world out there, where you can be found, where the books can be found, so that they can. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot go now. You have to wait until the show is over. So don't rush off now. You have to wait. I'm sorry. It's one of the rules.
Yep.
Let them know where you can be found.
I have a WordPress, and I believe it is author Lila Vale at wordpress.com, but it may be Lila Vale author. But if I have that wrong, my Facebook author page is Lila Vale author, facebook.com/Lila Vale author, and I have links to just about everything there, and I try to post like events that I'll do takeovers at, or like this interview is posted there and occasional stuff, giveaways, stuff like that. So that's probably the best most frequently updated thing. I should start posting more blogs, but I'll start an idea. I have so many drafts in my blog, but I'll start an idea and then get distracted or remember something I need to do and then run off to do that and forget about it. So my drafts folder on my WordPress thing is just a graveyard of random ideas. So maybe one day I'll start updating that a little more frequently, but right now the Facebook author page is probably the best. I have a Twitter and stuff like that too, but it all can be found there. So,
well, as a new author, I've been out there for a while now, so I'm kind of one of the old ones that my knowledge has now become wisdom, and I believe that all of us can contribute to the wisdom of the ages in helping not just authors but artists and musicians and people with platforms and people with passions. How would you help someone to bring that dream to the forefront and to do something with it other than just to sit it on a shelf and say, well, maybe someday? Well, maybe some days right now, because maybe someday is not going to get here.
I totally agree. I listened to Kyle's a little bit. I agree with him on that, where I lost my train of thought. But, yeah, you need to do it, or I wish I would have done it sooner. That's the one thing that I do regret. Like I said, I've been writing just silly stories, reading and writing and thinking, how it'd be so awesome to have, my book out there and for people to actually like it and, read my stories and things like that. And I wasted so much time daydreaming and doubting myself. So my encouragement would be to definitely stick to it, and you do have to make time for it. It's one of those things that you, at least for me, I put it off a lot of times because I just didn't have time. But that's kind of the difference between a hobbyist and a professional, even with like athletics, things like that. Professional athletes are not people that go out and every single day they are motivated to go do the work. Not every day. Some days they probably would love to just not do it. But the difference between the people that make it and the people that don't, a lot of times it's just forcing yourself to do it even when you don't feel like it. So, and I could take my own advice on that. Like I still have trouble sometimes with making sure to set aside time to meet goals and write as much as I want to write and that sort of thing. So I would say just stick to it. Don't be afraid to put your stuff out there because you are your own worst critic, and it's much better. And even if you get criticism from the outside world, which everybody does, sometimes you learn to let it roll off your shoulders, and then other times it can help you. It can help you become a better writer or artist or whatnot. You kind of have to know your center and your voice and pay attention and know how far you're willing to allow certain criticisms to affect you, and then which ones you just are going to blow off because they're stupid. So you kind of have to know that, but you'll learn that as you kind of write and keep with it. So I don't know. I've got all.
Do you agree that sometimes when we are on our journey, because we all know it's not the final destination that is our goal, it's the journey itself, that as writers, sometimes, I know I do, I have these moments of, I'm the only one that understands me. Nobody else gets me. And I feel like I'm on this island. Well, then I have to smack myself upside the head, and I reach out to my other author friends, and say something off the wall or stupid, and they say, "Yeah, we get you, Yvonne," and it just it makes a difference in the day because we do get so far down in our own trenches that we can't get out of our own way.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, I agree, and I felt that too. You just I don't know. It's sometimes you get wrapped up in your own mind, but it usually you or the closest people in your circle help you find your way. That's important too. Not burning bridges, and trying to find the people that are going to be great and supportive and that sort of thing to help you through that stuff, help encourage you, and having just fans, which I say fans, they're more like friends, on Facebook, who help. You may be having a bad day and doubting yourself, and then one of them says something about how they can't wait for the next book in this series, or they post a review and it talks about how much they loved a book that you were starting to doubt if it was, as good as you wanted it to be, or something like that. Things like that are always lifesavers. They always are very nice to read and help pull you out of that kind of
and it doesn't even have
madness.
to be a book review. It just it just has to be something positive that shows up on your news feed from someone.
Right.
And it doesn't even have to be
small.
about you. Just something positive, because I don't have negative in my life anyway. I cut it out like a cancer because I don't have time for it.
Yeah.
I put them in my book and kill them, but yes, I said that. So I am going to bring you back, and bring you and Kyle back after the first of the year, because I know y'all got some more books that are coming out, correct?
Yes. And hopefully, I'm hoping to have something out. Right now, everything I have out is co-written with Kyle, because it's he stays on my ass about it. If I don't finish my chapter and get it over to him, he'll let me know. So, but I hope to have. I'm pretty deep into this paranormal that I'm writing, so I hope to have. Maybe I'll have that one out by then. So we'll see. Holidays and everything. I don't want to make any promises, but.
Well, I told Kyle that y'all keep me in the loop, because I want to launch your books on this show. It's very important for
awesome.
y'all. Yeah, because this show goes all over the world. I don't know if he told you, but when this show goes into archives, it goes on iTunes, it goes on Stitcher, which is heard on Sirius Radio. I upload it to SoundCloud, Mixcloud, Podcast, and Podomatic, and I also upload it to Spreaker. Well, when I upload it to Spreaker, it goes to YouTube and the TuneIn Radio.
Wow.
So, yeah, and when I upload the podcast, I will put the link up on my page, and I will tag y'all in it, and then y'all can go there. You can even go to the archives of the show and take the links and put them on your pages and use them to advertise your interview on this show and your books. This is my gift to y'all.
Oh, well, that's awesome. That'd be great. Thank you. It'd be amazing.
Because
I'm just like, in the back of my head, I'm thinking all these people are going to hear me, like, forgetting to breathe and talking really fast.
But it's just us. It's just the two of us and 5,000 of our friends.
That's it. That's all.
See, and next time you won't be nervous, because you will have already gotten one under your belt, so all will be well.
Right.
And,
next time I'm going to have my shit together. It will be.
Well, I finally got mine together, but then I forgot where I put it.
Yeah. Sounds like me.
So, ladies, thank you, Lila, for coming on tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Off the Chain. I am your host, Yvonne Mason, and yes, tonight we've been off the chain. Tomorrow night, I have a wonderful children's author. Her name is Wanda Lathman, and she writes some really, really cool books with moral compasses for children. So join me at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time when you will hear me interview her. On Saturday night, I will have Floyd Potts back, and who knows what we'll be talking about. On the 21st, author Rick Powell, and on the 31st, I will have author Tom Futrell, also known as the Reaper. I will not be doing shows the week of Thanksgiving, except for that Monday. So join me tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Lila, thank you, my dear, so much, and I can't wait to have you back. I appreciate you taking time out to spend it with me.
No, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Off the Chain. I am your host, Yvonne Mason, and if you don't believe we're off the chain, just listen to all the shows. If you want to be on the show, contact me. And with that, and live your life today, not tomorrow, today. So good night until tomorrow night. Okay, Lila, we are in the archives portion now. So, again, thank you so much, my friend, for spending an hour with me. And keep me in the loop so I can get you back on the show and launch your book. And I hope you're not too nervous anymore.
Yeah, I think it's out of my system now. I think I'll be good next time. I'll be a veteran. So.
Absolutely. And you nailed it. It was a fun show. We just talked about everything under the shining sun.
Yeah.
And the alien.
I think it was fun.
Yeah, alien. The alien.
There we go.
There we go with the alien. And with that, I'm going to say good night, my darling. And as soon as I get these uploaded, I'll put them on my page, and I will tag you and Kyle. And then y'all take these and post them everywhere. Put them on your WordPress site, too.
Okay, will do. Thank you so much.
All right,
have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be hard. Like early 90s heavy metal hard.
I'm yelling and screaming and I'm loud. Roar!
Geico makes it easy. You can review and update your policy or report a claim on Geico.com or the Geico mobile app. Because shouldn't we all have a little less stress in our lives?
I'm not even upset about anything.
Danny, I just figured out that if I switch to Metro PCS, I get 2 Samsung Galaxy phones free.
Cool, Dad.
And I could be a super dad with 2 free Samsung Galaxy phones and call myself Double Galaxy Man.
Or you could give the second phone to your sidekick.
Yeah, I guess I could do that.
That's right. 2 free Samsung Galaxy On 5 smartphones are all yours when you switch to Metro PCS. Metro PCS. Wireless figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.